you for joining us for another episode of On Patrol with the Suffolk PBA. I'm CJ Hunter, the treasurer of the PBA.
I'm Tanner Brandmeier, the sergeant at arms of the PBA.
And today we're excited to have Skye Ostreicher on with us. Skye's the political personality on Instagram. She's all over social media, and she's made quite a splash with being able to cross the aisle and have bipartisan participation in some of her events that she's hosted. So thanks for coming on, Skye.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's all about human chemistry. I joke I studied chemistry in college. I was supposed to go to medical school, but now it's like you take different elements, which are the people, and you put them together and you see what the reaction is going to be, who bonds, who explodes, and maybe who can come up with a solution. So it's all rooted in that human chemistry. That's how we get along.
So I love stuff like that. And, you know, we highlighted on our show from time to time how we've had Republicans on, we've had Democrats on, we've covered all, you know, both spectrums. And a lot of the times we talk about the same issues, right? People out there just care about the same stuff. We all care about affordability, feeling safe. And really the only difference is what do people see as the pathway to achieving those goals? And you've had a lot of those same conversations with some of your guests.
You know, I'll give you the example. You know Rebecca Cassay, the assemblywoman
Yes,
on the,
love Rebecca.
in the North Essex County.
Yeah.
So when she was first running for office, I did an interview. I interviewed all these candidates who were running for office on Zoom. So this was back in 2021. I did 450 Zoom interviews, but she gave this great example that in that district, which is a purple district, maybe even more Republican of a district, she's running as a Democrat. Her issue is about water, climate, environment. But she said when you approach a more conservative group to talk about that issue, you phrase it in terms of flooding.
Right.
People care about their houses flooding. Whereas if you're speaking to a more liberal group about the same topic, you can talk about climate change.
Yeah, the environment.
The environment. Certain phrases are more triggering. And like your point, it's the pathway of getting there. Sometimes it's the word choice that you use to broach the subject. Even though you're talking about the same thing, you got to speak about it differently depending on who you're talking to.
So that's an interesting perspective because it makes perfect sense, right? A lot of the times you'll be in a debate with somebody, and after talking in circles for about 10 minutes, you start to realize, wait, are we actually kind of talking about the same thing? Right? And sometimes it's just the word choices that gets you to be able to come up with some sort of solution that people can agree on.
And we both think we're right?
Right, exactly.
I'm just thinking of the SNL skit now back during the presidential campaign where it was Tim Walz and JD Vance, you know, the SNL skit. And at the end, they like realized they had so much in common, like they went to go touch each other. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, that's great.
Like they were arguing and it's like, wow, are we in love with each other?
That's great. So SNL has been famous for portraying presidents in the past, right? And getting involved in some of these political issues and making light of them, turning it into comedy. Is that where you've gotten like some of your ideas for being able to do this political personality, social media stuff?
The way I got the idea, like I worked in government relations, lobbying, public affairs for 10 years on Long Island, then in New York City. And when you're working with a firm, you have a goal for a client and it's like, how do you get there? And like you're saying at the table, maybe there's some arguing, but behind the scenes, it's like, you know, who's friends with who. So if we can get you and your allies behind the scenes to talk about this issue, maybe we can rephrase it when we come back to the table. So that's where the idea of the political personality comes into play. And then I worked on the Mike Bloomberg presidential campaign. I was asked to take a leave of absence in 2019 at the firm I was working for. And then I was the regional director for Long Island for Mike Bloomberg 2020. He dropped out March 4th. And then the pandemic was March 13th, 2020. So that's when I was unemployed and locked inside. So I started doing these video interviews. I reached out to everyone whose number I had that was in local office, elected office in the city and the state on Long Island. No one had anything to do, and there was no way to sit down with someone in a podcast studio or go to a breakfast networking event or a cocktail party or a campaign fundraiser. You couldn't leave the house and meet people. So I did all these Zoom interviews, and I didn't ask about politics because during that time we were like inside and everyone was searching for meaning and searching for connection. So it was really about who are you as a person? What are you passionate about? And in a lot of these races, particularly in New York City, where there was a Democratic primary with 9 different candidates running for the same seat, it's like, what's the difference between Democrat 1, 3, and 9? It really has to have something to do with their personality.
I like how you brought that up because most people, like the average citizen, does not want to talk about politics. They really don't care, and they're actually annoyed to talk about it.
That's true.
So that's a very unique perspective that you're bringing. That you it's like you care about the person, that you want to know their personality, what they care about. I think that's a different way of looking at it.
It is a different way of looking at it. And what you do here with the Suffolk PBA, you work across the aisle, you have your issue that you care about, and how can you talk to other legislators to care about the issue in the way you care about it? It's like finding the common ground that you might have with them around another issue that's related to the issue that you're focused on.
We also like to educate our elected officials out here and their staff members, because not everybody knows what it's like to be a police officer. I think it's very different, and a lot of people see it from the outside. They see pictures, they see videos, and then they make an assumption all the time. And I think that it's unfair for our police officers.
Well, that's why, like, at the Hop Hog Industrial Association, HIALI, Terry Maselli's group, they do a big trade show and they invite all these businesses from Suffolk County to the Brentwood Suffolk Community College campus. And it was about 3 years ago I went to that trade show, and that's when I met Officer Thomas Joy. He had a police car inside the building. And I went up to the police car, like, I've never been in a police car before. And he thought that was so funny, but really, I haven't been in a police car before. So he's like, do you want to go inside? So I went in the police car, and it's like all the buttons, and he showed me how to like operate the spotlight. And we made this cute little video, and we kept in touch ever since then. And he is excellent at community outreach and inviting people to the table. So every time he has an event, like he just did the Asian Jade Society.
So we're hanging out at,
Yeah, that was a humongous, amazing event with all kinds of people in the room, not just people who are in law enforcement or law enforcement adjacent. It's all kinds of supporters and community members that have built relationships through that community that someone like Officer Joy is able to facilitate.
I think it was interesting when you brought it up when we were sitting down at the table at the Asian Jade event, that Tom would just hit you up randomly every so often to check on you and see how you're doing. I think that's awesome that he does that.
Yeah, like, do you ever get written letters in the mail anymore? Does anyone have
so rare.
handwrite you a letter?
Never really.
No.
And it's like, it's so easy to send a text message, and it's less common now to get a phone call. So when someone calls you, it's like, wow, you're calling me. Let me answer the phone. It's a great way to build relationships.
Yeah. So Tommy's great at that. And, I mean, even with his CRB stuff, the Community Relations Bureau with the department, he's involved in the Asian Jade Association. He's built so many relationships. And like you were saying, it's not just law enforcement. It's everything adjacent. It's all about public service, right? And making the communities we live in better and creating those relationships where we could find common causes and work together and build those relationships.
Yep. I'm actually going up to Albany in May. I'm going to be moderating a panel for the New York Bankers Association, where they're going to have all these different, their member banks, large banks, community banks from throughout the state. And the topic on the panel that I'm moderating is about engaging with nonprofit organizations. So you think about what's the connection there. The New York Banking Association wants to encourage local bankers to get involved in local community nonprofits and membership organizations so that they too can help facilitate relationship building, not just be a banker at a bank, but be someone that's an active member and engaged in the community to do exactly what we're saying, build relationships and bring attention to different types of issues. And it's all through education and relationship building.
It's great to hear stories like that because, you typically think of bankers, you think they're just in it for the money. They're into it for the bottom line, and that's all they care about. But to hear this new generation of bankers maybe thinking outside the box and realizing the value of, improving the communities they work in, improving the communities that they invest in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there is a way for everybody to kind of work together and just improve the society as a whole.
Totally.
Yep.
Totally.
Tanner here from On Patrol with the Suffolk PBA. Just a reminder to all our viewers to like, subscribe, follow, and share our content across all platforms.
And so with a lot of the stuff you're doing with your political personality, social media, I see people from not just these private industry, but both sides of the aisle, the elected officials, right? I've seen you with Democrats, Republicans doing a fashion show, dancing on a dance floor, right? So you get to show that human side a lot of these elected officials.
Yeah. And that's what people care about. Like you were saying, they say, don't talk about politics or religion. But imagine a world in which that was a normal topic of conversation. It would be easier to have those conversations. That's because we've said, don't talk about about it. Don't talk about it for so long. So how can we reintroduce difficult topics into dynamics amongst friends or amongst colleagues? It's through like, who are you as a person? Once you see a video of Mayor Hobbs from Hempstead dancing on the dance floor.
People relate to that.
Yeah, they do. They relate to that.
I like dancing at weddings and stuff like that. And who doesn't like that?
It's fun. Have a good time, right?
Exactly.
But even like Assembly Member Mike Durso from Nassau County is a Republican. He was a sanitation worker for 15 years. So what does that mean? It means that he knows all the issues when it comes to sanitation, waste, carting. That has to do with the environment. It has to do with transportation. It touches on a lot of issues. And he comes to his position as a blue collar family man. Like that, those are his values. So when I did a video with him after my pandemic Zoom series, when the world opened back up, I went and I met these people where they were. So Mike Durso took me to the town of Oyster Bay Department of Sanitation at 4:00 in the morning, and we rode a garbage truck together.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But I'm thinking even when it comes to law enforcement and policing, like, can you take elected officials with you out for the day in a car, on patrol, like whatever it is, to one of your meetings, like let them see it for what it is. It gives someone a new experience.
You know, that's a great point, because we do from time to time facilitate ride-alongs with some of our patrol cops, right? And from time to time, elected officials go into the Citizens Academy at the police academy. So they get a little bit of training, a little bit of experience, but it's definitely an underutilized tool, in my opinion, because a lot of times it takes that experience to open somebody's eyes, right?
I think
understand the perspective.
I think it should be mandatory. Our legislators are the ones creating the laws. They dictate how it's going to be enforced, basically, to what level it's going to be enforced. They should really know more about that, I feel, or at least experience it in some kind of way. I'm not asking them to go sign up and be a cop for 20 years and then go be a politician, but I think to do a ride along like once a year or like once even, that should be like the bare minimum of being an elected official in the state of New York, that, in my opinion.
And I think I've had this conversation with different labor union folks, like all the different types of union labor jobs that there are out there. How many of our public officials have ever done or experienced a labor union job where they're using their hands and actually doing something? And it's not their fault. It's not like they're ignorant to it or don't make the time for it necessarily. It could be there has to be more outreach coming from these groups, inviting the elected officials into their circles to experience it. Because to your point, they're legislating it, but they might not be the expert. Just because someone's the chair of public safety or the chair of corrections doesn't mean they have background in that industry. And I always quote Senator Kevin Parker from Brooklyn. He says that as an elected official, his knowledge is a mile wide, but it's only an inch thick. So unless you're coming to him to teach him things, how is he supposed to know?
That's a great way to put it. And it's great that he has that sort of understanding too, where his ego's not getting in the way.
Yeah.
He realizes he's not an expert on everything, but he's willing to learn whatever he can when somebody's trying to lobby for some sort of change or push an issue that maybe he just didn't realize was an issue prior.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I really like about what you're doing too with, having these people dance and the fashion show is it's showing that human side during a time where, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, it could be super polarizing. And people have gotten so sensitive to certain issues where families break up, families argue, they fight constantly, where it used to be you could have a normal conversation and just realize, we don't agree on everything, right? So like we had Rich Schaefer on the show in the past, and he said Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill were on opposite sides of the aisles and they would debate an issue, but right after debating an issue, they'd go out and have a beer together, right? You didn't take things as personal decades ago. And I feel like people have lost sight of that. People take things almost too personal now.
And even in that vein, there are examples of people who do have a relationship across party lines, but they're still scared to socialize with that person outside, like in public, because they're afraid of their base. They're afraid of their rabid extremist base that will either come after them or try and primary them or put up a candidate against them. So those are the times that we live in. But what I like to think of it as is that 70% of people are somewhere in the middle and normal, and you can have a conversation and they're willing to compromise. But the loudest voices, especially on social media, are the 15% all the way to the left and the 15% all the way to the right. But that's still most people are somewhere in the middle. They just don't know where their voice fits in because they're afraid of being attacked by those rabid extremists.
And those are the people you see on social media or even on the media in general. They don't show the views of the moderate people. They show the views of the people all the way on the outside.
Because it's easy. It's clickbait.
Yes.
It's more exciting. It's sexier. Right. It makes for better headlines. But like, what are we doing to our democracy?
It draws everybody further away from each other.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're further divided now than, at least during any point of our lives. So I see this, what you're doing, as one of those tools to maybe bring us back together. Because it almost seems like one of those circular events, right? Where you hear that phrase, strong men make good times make weak men make tough times, and it goes in a circle. I feel like we're in one of those phases right now where if we could start seeing each other as people again and communicating again somewhere in the middle, we could get back to a sense of normalcy.
Right. So you mentioned the fashion show that I do, Style Across the Aisle. For the last 2 years, it was a once a year event, and we're planning it again for this September. The concept is elected officials model the runway wearing local designers from their district. So it forces government officials to work with a local small business from their community that maybe they never would have had a relationship with before. So they're learning about local small business issues. Then that business is happy to be spotlighted on a runway during New York Fashion Week, where maybe they can't afford to have their own Fashion Week show. And then we bring in all the different community partners and members, and we donate money to a nonprofit. So we're planning that for this September, but because there's been so much momentum and everyone's so excited about this idea of Style Across the Aisle, what a cool bipartisan fashion show, we're looking to make this into year-round programming where we can bring different businesses to the table to talk about different things. Like if a local small business wants a relationship with a bank to be able to do small business loans or credit card processing, and they want some education about that, then we can bring the elected official into that workshop also. And it's all together. We're all working together year round, and then have the show as the big highlight moment.
From Harlem Haberdashery to Batsheva, Ron Dice, and Magnifique Couture, the Style Across the Aisle runway is packed with local talent. 30 New York designers will dress 30 elected officials from across the 5 boroughs in their own neighborhoods for one unforgettable night during New York Fashion Week. It brings me so much joy to be able to connect our leaders with local talent and show that politics can have style, heart, and humanity. This is our 2nd year, and we're just getting started.
Elected officials are better educated in what's going on as well then.
Yeah, I mean, they need to be. They need to be.
And so this is one of those things, too, where you have a very good relationship with Jody Giglio.
Yes.
We love Jody.
Yes,
we see Jody all the time.
She's my fairy godmother.
Yeah, and Jody was raving about this event. So much so. And she built relationships because of that event. We went to a fundraiser of hers recently in the past month or two. It was a music bingo night.
Bingo, that was great.
Yeah, it was great. And it was fun.
I missed that one. That's a lot of fun.
It was awesome. So we get there, and I'm a little pessimistic. I'm like, oh God, we're going to be playing games, but it was so much fun. It took me 30 seconds to buy in, and we had a blast. But she introduced us to friends she had made from your fashion show.
Yeah.
And there were people that actually came out from Brooklyn to participate in her fundraiser.
See? There you go. People are dying to build relationships and do something. Wow, that's amazing. That's a great fun fact about Style Across the Aisle. It is building community. It's like, what do we do with this community? Yeah.
So is it state officials throughout the whole state, or is it like
it's usually been people that it's convenient for. So we've had some members from Long Island. Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney walked in our first fashion show at Gracie Mansion.
That's great.
We found him.
We're going to get some pictures for the podcast.
Yeah. You have video of that?
He looked beautiful. He came with his wife, his security detail. We have pictures. I'll share them with you.
Yeah, Ray's great. I would like to see him walking down the aisle.
Yeah, he looked great. I mean, you could tell he was a little uncomfortable. I'm like, come on, Ray. Come on, Ray. But, and we found him a local tailor right from Amityville. That was 3rd generation tailor right in Amityville. And then Jody this past year modeled Rico's clothing, which is in Santa Maricha's in her district. But it's a great thing. And I would wake up the next morning to text messages saying exactly what you just said. Like Councilwoman Joanne Ariola in New York City said, Skye, I've never had that much fun with my Democratic colleagues in my life. Thank you so much. So it's a matter of how do we continue this? What else can we do with this community?
I'm glad to learn that Rico's took part in that, because I'm friends with Rico.
Okay.
Yeah, so the original business was named after Rico's grandfather, but now Rico, the grandson, has taken it over. But they're great within their community. So we actually had a member who experienced a tragedy in his life. He lost a child. And in very short notice, they had to figure out, some sort of dress wear for the family and the child during the funeral services. And Rico stepped right up and actually just donated stuff to him.
Yeah.
Like Rico is great. He looks for any avenue to help whenever he can.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear that he got involved with your show too.
Yeah. Wow, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah. No, Rico's is great. So what other sorts of ventures have you taken part in now? Because we see this fashion show, we've seen highlights of it, but I know, you're all over social media. You started doing like Sundae Scoops, right? You're doing like your little insights. What other sorts of things have you been working on?
I have my weekly newsletter because I'm traveling around I go from Albany to Long Island to New York City, and I'm the political personality, and everyone's constantly, I'm taking pictures, I'm taking videos, I'm having conversations, and it's a matter of like, what do I do with this information? Because it's too good to just keep to myself. So I started doing the Sundae Scoops newsletter. So it's been a little over a year, but I just started matching it to an ice cream flavor because I thought that could be kind of fun. So the scoop last week was butter pecan, rich and a little nutty. So then I dive into like all the different issues related to money that are happening in the city and the state and affordability. And it's budget week right now in Albany, the first week of April. So matching it to an ice cream flavor, and it's a little nutty in our political world. But it's a great resource. I've had people tell me, because I write everything myself. There's no links in the newsletter. There's no advertising. It's really just a candid take on what I've heard and what people say has happened. And it includes some photos. So it's a great way for people to even read about who was where. And this is irrelevant, but it's relevant. The way, the new Pope from Chicago.
Yes.
There was a data company that predicted that Pope would be chosen from Chicago. And the way they figured it out was through a program that they call relationship science, where they looked at all the people in his hierarchy in the church and where they were and what events they went to, what dinner parties they went to, where this guy from Chicago had been, what meetings he was in. And they were able to look at all that data and predict that he would be the next Pope.
Oh, that's
very
incredible.
Interesting.
Yeah. So with what I have, it's like the more we know who's where, you can predict outcomes. You can see who's friends with who. You can see how someone might feel about something. You might see that this Republican and this Democrat on paper disagree about everything, but yet they're at this Suffolk PBA event together. Like they're at this fundraiser in Manhattan together. Oh, they were, having lunch, or they were at the same roundtable about nonprofits. So there might be relationships there behind the scenes that aren't necessarily publicized, but they exist, and it could help build for better relationships. And that ties back into the work of Style Across the Aisle.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting, because it just goes to show that all information has value, right? It's like, who's where, who's with who. It could, like you put it could put into perspective, like who might have relationships behind the scenes and who can help make something actually work and get signed into law if you're trying to lobby for something, or make changes that you're looking to see in our government and in our society.
Right. So that's what my business is. My business is In the Room Media. I started it 2.5 years ago now. I was at City and State for 2 years doing my in-person political personalities videos. And now in the Room Media, I specialize in public-private partnerships. And it's really about strategy. It's communications. It's conversations. It's private events. It's cocktail parties. So it's like all things I love doing. And I'm constantly getting all this information. So putting it in the newsletter and then sharing it. The more we share, the more we know, and the more we can grow together. And that's genuinely what I want to happen.
So I just recently started learning more and more about public-private partnerships. Suffolk County Police Foundation was just recently formed. That's a public-private partnership. They get donations from, all across the county and all across the state. And it's ways that they could take that money and help fund different programs within the police department, right? So they got the True Narc machines, right, where they could test for drugs easier. They've helped get a lot of tools, and now they're actually fundraising to help rebuild our police academy and training facilities too. So it's a great way for taxpayers to be able to save money as well.
Right. Wow. That's wonderful, that foundation.
Yeah. So the private-public partnerships that have definitely started to grow. Like I said, I just started learning about them recently because of the formation of the foundation. But with some of the stuff that you're working on, I also saw you interview a lot of labor leaders throughout the state, right? And one of the things that we talk often about is the effect AI is starting to have on the workforce, and even our day to day, some of the stuff we work on. I mean, even with social media, you got to make social media posts almost daily to make sure that people are constantly seeing your content, right? So how much does AI start to replace some of the workforce? And it's a huge concern, especially for labor unions.
I know, but the interesting thing is, like, one of the unions I did a lot of interviews with is the transportation workers union, the transport workers union. So we were talking about like a bus mechanic. So you still need someone that knows how to do bus mechanicry with their hands. Just the technology within the bus itself may change. I guess you can think of that with old cars. Old cars, like everyone likes looking at old cars, but when you lift the hood, there's different things within it. It's not like a robot is going to take over and be able to fix a car unless you're thinking they might be able to. But you'll need someone with a level of expertise. So the way that I've been hearing it is that AI isn't going to replace actual hands-on work. It's going to be more behind the scenes to assist with something like records, if you have police records, or even like body cam footage and then the notes and then the eyewitnesses, like all the data that would take a really long time to compile and get together. If you're giving it to the DA or you need to bring it to court for something, it's like helping to compile all that stuff behind the scenes. Using AI to do that can be a lot more efficient than having a bunch of people running around with papers and emails and documents. That's how I envision it.
It should make the worker more effective and more efficient. That's the way that I look at it.
It helps the worker. It's not replacing the worker. Right. It helps the worker. Like, don't you use ChatGPT for things that you do that help you? It's not replacing you. It's just helping you.
Right. No, of course. There's definitely a place for it. It's definitely a useful tool. But, you know, it's almost like reality is starting to mimic some of the old sci-fi movies from the 80s, right? So it makes your mind wander, like, what if it takes a left turn and starts replacing workers? What if we go into a situation where there's a universal income because there's just not enough jobs out there anymore? You know what I mean? Like, what if all these things start to occur 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now?
I did recently see a robot up at the Capitol, I'm going to say. Not like a human look like robot.
What was it doing?
It was like this small, not small thing, but it was kind of like maybe 3 feet wide on the ground, like marching around on the ground.
Doing what?
I don't know. I didn't get that into it. I just saw this thing like walking around. It was like a mechanical box, kind of like. So
I was in an airport recently, and I forget if it was Puerto Rico or Florida. It was some sort of tropical climate. It might have been Puerto Rico, and there was a robot mopping the floor. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, that would have been a janitor. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there is that possibility out there where the AI starts to take over some job. And that's what gets concerning to like somebody like me. And it's not just necessarily police work, right? I mean, you think of RoboCop, right? It makes you worried about losing jobs in police work, but it's all sorts of jobs. Like, I got kids, nieces, nephews to worry about. I want to make sure that they can make a living into the future. So AI is just one of those things. And I noticed you spoke to people about it. It's one of those things that I'm always kind of concerned with. But
you know what? There's so much happening in technology that what's going to become more and more extinct is that human touch.
Right.
And it's going to be harder. It's going to be more and more sought after for someone with people skills and human skills that can pick up the phone or write that letter or reach out or sit down with, you know, people who make eye contact and mean what they say, that sincerity. That's going to go away. So that's going to be sought after. So we're back in your circle.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
I like what you did there.
Yeah.
We're right
totally,
back to you.
Totally. So, you know, and talking about like a lot of the networking functions and stuff that we all attend, we actually first met at an event for Ronald McDonald House Charities.
Yes.
Right. And so they held an event at Yankee Stadium. We were introduced to you by Jody Giglio. Jody's great.
Yes.
And so we've recently partnered up with Ronald McDonald House Charities. They're building a new house in Stony Brook here. So it's going to be their first house in Suffolk County. We just did a tour of their new Hyde Park location. And we're very excited to see the Stony Brook house get off the ground and start getting built. I think they're going to complete it in 2027.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what sort of relationship do you have with Ronald McDonald House? Because you were there. Like we
I was
that.
introduced to the whole foundation and all their efforts by Lisa Black. And I know she has deep roots in Suffolk County.
Yeah, she does.
So she brought me into that fold. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So Lisa definitely has deep roots here in Suffolk. We still see her from time to time too.
Yes.
Yeah. So have you been working with Lisa? Is it just a friendship that you guys have?
Yeah, we have a friendship and we collaborate and talk. She's a great resource. And she took me as her guest to one of the coolest conferences I've ever been to was the DCJS conference. And It was held at Fordham University. And she spoke on a panel about cybersecurity and talked about the cybersecurity attack in Suffolk County. And that was when I got my FBI challenge coin.
Nice.
And that night we went out to dinner with a bunch of FBI agents. So, you think of it, maybe you don't, but I think of an FBI agent like, oh my God, Men in Black.
Yeah, right.
But again, having dinner, chit-chatting and hearing about their lives and what got them into this was very interesting. So Lisa brought me into that circle and connected me with you and Ronald McDonald. So even things you don't think would overlap.
She's very good at the networking part.
Yeah.
When you started getting into this world, did you realize how broad of a scope of groups you'd start meeting and working with?
I mean, I was told that I was doing the wrong thing by being moderate and being in the middle and making friends with everyone. The amount of people that told me, Skye, you got to choose a side. You got to choose a side.
Wow.
That's
incredible.
And they still do. But I think there's more and more need for this moderate convener. The amount of people that come to me either asking for information or giving me information that are both in the public and private sector, the way that that's helpful. And then people think of me for other things Skye's the one that connected me to this organization. And elected officials have done that as well as private sector people. Now I'm invited to speak on the New York Bankers Association. How do I fit into that world? They want to get their members more engaged in nonprofits. It's all, and we mentioned local tailoring before. Our nonprofit beneficiary for Style Across the Aisle last year was this program called Witness to Mass Incarceration. They have a vocational training school in fashion, tailoring, and merchandising and manufacturing for justice impacted youth. Kids that had experiences with the justice system were incarcerated, their families were incarcerated, drugs, homelessness. This woman, Evie Litwalk, is a white collar criminal herself. She's in her 70s, and she created this organization to train these kids to have careers, vocational careers in fashion. So then she asked me to be on the board after we partnered for Style Across the Aisle. So I'm on the board of that organization now. So it's then learning about the vocational training. It's very similar to this idea of with unions and police officers, what elected officials have had experience in a union or as a police officer, what elected officials have had experience working any type of vocational career. How can you legislate? Why should people get college loans? Why should we have federal college loans to go to a 4-year institution when we see some of the backlash that's happening at these 4-year institutions?
Right.
What are these kids learning? What kind of jobs are they getting? And why can't we give a kid a 2-year degree and have them go out and do something and make a really great salary and be part of a union or be part of labor or be part of the workforce in a way that helps them immediately?
So I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think that vocational schools and getting into the trades is going to make a huge comeback.
Yeah.
Right. And especially with, everything comes back around in the circle, right? With some of the AI stuff that's going on, I think you're going to need those plumbers, those electricians, those carpenters. You're going to need those people to do the physical work that AI is not going to be able to replace. And I am super happy to hear that when somebody was giving you what I consider bad advice, you stood up for yourself and stuck to what you truly believed in your heart was right. Staying in the middle and being able to have open lines of communication with people, because choosing a side, I think that's terrible advice, right? Because it starts to get to the point where it's you're rooting for one team or the other team and not just worried about what's actually right and what's actually helping people, which often falls in the middle.
Totally. And I like to think of it like sports.
Yeah.
You can go out and be at the bar and root for your team and then, you're still friends at the end of the day. Politics should be a little bit more like that. There should be a little more like sportsmanship, camaraderie instead of.
You don't want to see like at the end of the Super Bowl where one team loses and they destroy the city. That's
Right.
Right. We should play a little more like sports.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because like obviously there's political parties for a reason. They have their foundations of beliefs. I get it. But at some point in time, like, overall, Donald Trump, I voted for Donald Trump. I supported Donald Trump. Overall, I think he does a good job overall. But obviously, there's some things I disagree with. Now, you're never going to agree with everybody all the time. So these people that think he's always right and just always back him up no matter what, to me, that's insanity. And it's the same thing with the left, right? If you think that a Democrat is right 100% of the time, I got news for you. They're not. Right? You sometimes they're going to be on the wrong side of an argument. If you agree with somebody 100% of the time, you're just a puppet. You're not actually thinking. Right.
And there's got to be more people that realize that and talk about it to sort of give cover for the people that are afraid to voice that side, that opinion.
Yeah. So, and as a labor union, we say all the time, because we make political endorsements in every level of government. We go from town officials all the way up to statewide and federal office. So we always say our endorsements, if you look at it, you might see a list where it's Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. It's never party based. It's always issue based. It depends on what's going on at that particular time and in that particular area that they're representing. So to be able to be issue based, I think that's the best way for anybody to operate, not even just an organization, but this is stuff that I'm starting to learn personally as well.
And that comes back down to education. It's like teaching people to be more issues based instead of like, this is the Democratic Party and what it stands for, and this is the Republican Party and what it stands for. It really should be more issues based and taught as an issues based thing. Right.
So as you're developing now with the in-the-room media and some of the stuff you're branching off to do, what are some of the things that you envisioning growing into starting? You have the fashion show. Is there something else you want to start maybe, dipping your toes into, trying something else?
No, this is really it. I mean, it's been, just over 2 years and it's forming this foundation. I'm so lucky and fortunate to be recognized by so many people when I go out and about to these events. Like people know who I am, and that makes me feel really proud of the work that I do and being able to bring people together, because it's Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, socialists that read the newsletter, that follow me on Instagram, and they love it. And if you can get all those people from all these ideologies to love what you do, it's really fantastic. So I just want to continue to grow what it is that I'm doing and just work with more organizations and bring more people into the fold.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I know when you originally went to college, you mentioned you were studying chemistry.
Yes.
And I think I read that you're actually pre-med studying chemistry.
Yes.
What made you want to make that change?
You want the long story or the short story?
Let's hear it.
I went to West Hampton Beach High School, and I got a full scholarship to the University of Miami to study chemistry. And I loved chemistry. I had a high school chemistry professor that was amazing, and that's what I was good at. I'm a math and science gal. But in school, when you are going to apply to medical school, you got to finish everything by junior year. So it was in my junior year at University of Miami. The president of the college was this woman, Donna Shalala. She was Secretary of Health and Human Services during the Bill Clinton administration when he was president. So she was a cabinet member. I didn't know anything about politics, but she taught a course in college for juniors and seniors about her experience working in this role. So one day I show up for class. There's all black Escalades all over campus and security everywhere. Bill Clinton was the guest speaker in our class.
Oh, that's great.
That's cool.
So the two of them, Donna and Bill, told the story of the night that she was his designated survivor during his State of the Union address.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was like, wait a minute, like, I don't know anything about this, but I love it. Like, I need to do that. So I met with her because, like, when you're a student in her class, you can have a one-on-one with her. So she told me, get your master's in public health and explore, from there. So I graduated college a year early. I came home and I did my master's in public health at Stony Brook. And then they had a program there where you can do public health and public policy. So I had 2 masters and I was only 22 years old.
Wow, that's great.
And I figured, what do I do now? Like, let me just do something fun before I dive into health policy. So I interned at News 12 Long Island. And it was in 2013. And it was Tom Swazi running against Ed Mangano for Nassau County Executive. And I was assigned to do a story on the two of them, and Ed wouldn't get on camera with me. And Tom did. And Tom had these beautiful sound bites and sounded like a normal person, and I really liked him. And then I worked on his campaign. He invited me to work on his campaign. So that's how all of a sudden then it took off into politics, policy, media, lobbying, public affairs, but it all happened over that course of events, depending on the people you meet that sort of like influence your career. So whenever I meet like young people or students, I say, you're a student, like you're entitled to ask anyone anything. If you want to ask the CEO of any company, like their advice, they're going to give it to you because you're a student. So it's all about who influences your career.
That's really interesting. And I feel like so many kids feel so much pressure about what college to choose, what major to major in. And it becomes almost like the first adult decision that a 17 or 18-year-old makes in their life. But there's still that latitude to be able to call an audible and make a pivot and make a change when you start to realize you have a real passion for something. So, and I like to say, we're super busy doing the union work that we do, being police officers, everything involved in the PBA. We're super busy. But I say all the time, I don't feel like I work for a living. I feel super busy because I'm doing something that I love to do. Yeah. I'm doing something that I'm passionate about. I love being able to stand up for the police officers that are out there trying to do the right thing and better the community. I love being able to advocate for changes to help make public safety initiatives stronger and be able to make police officers more effective in doing their jobs. I love doing the stuff that we do. So to be able to speak to somebody who went through a total pivot and found something that you're passionate about and enjoy doing. I love hearing stories like that.
And it's also really hard at 18 to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life.
100%.
You don't have any world experience. You don't really know anything.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's motivating for young listeners to hear your story and hear that, because a lot of them are afraid to do just what you're doing. I think a lot of them, they'll go to school for whatever major. I went to school for economics, and I obviously don't use that every day, but to see someone make a pivot like that and be successful still, I think that's very motivating for young people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. When I was coming out of high school, I wanted to be a sports agent. And obviously that didn't work out. And I'm very happy and grateful that I was able to become a police officer.
And now we're all sitting at this table together.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's incredible how, you feel so much pressure to make some sort of decision at 17, 18 years old. And you really still have time to make a change. Like it's not like you're making a choice that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. You can make a change if you feel that need and pull.
Right. Yeah. It's just hard. Like I know kids like really go through a lot of pressure during that time to figure out.
Yeah, it becomes stressful because like it's one of those things where it's like that's what you and your friends are talking about. What school are you going to? What are you going to major in? How much money does that make? Mm-hmm. Right? It becomes all these things like, what kind of life am I going to have 10 years from now? Mm-hmm. But there's always time to make a pivot and make a change.
Yeah. I think if I could do it over again, I would have actually slowed down a little bit. Like, why did I have to graduate a year early? I was taught that straight A's, like Skye, you have to get straight A's. Like we'll pay for everything. I ended up getting a scholarship. My parents' attitude was like, I didn't have to get a job when I was 16. My first job was my actual first job. Like I didn't work when I was younger. I wasn't a camp counselor. I didn't work at Ralph's Italian Ices. Like I didn't have a job like that. My job was to get good grades. So I didn't have a lot of friends that I would hang out with. Even in college, I wasn't allowed to go on spring break. I couldn't do any of these like social normal things that kids do. And if I could do it again, perhaps I would have even slowed down and made more friends and enjoyed myself a little bit more.
That's interesting when you bring that up, though, because your work is all networking and social.
I know.
And you're saying you didn't experience that. That's
I
crazy.
know. And when I go to therapy and I talk about my childhood trauma, I think it has to do with the fact that I wasn't able to do it when I was supposed to do it. So now I've made a career out of doing it.
Good for you.
Oh, it's awesome. That's very cool. That is interesting. It's funny how so we talk about experiences, right? But maybe the lack of an experience starts to influence what you're going to do.
Everything happens for a reason.
Right. That is crazy. That is very cool. So, Skye, I really enjoy our conversation here today. I think you're a very bright person. I really like what you're doing in politics right now. I think it's something that not only New York needs, but I think America needs, right? Because we're so far divided. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you really want to bring up that we didn't get a chance to touch on yet today?
I mean, I love this conversation. Thank you both for having me. I think the more that we can do, and anyone who's listening and watching, the more that we can do to try and be a bipartisan, moderate person, that you can disagree with someone, but you can still respect that they have that opinion and try and talk through other ways that you can work together. And I think if everyone can do their part in doing that instead of being quiet, would enable for more of these types of dialogues and encourage more people to voice their opinion without feeling like they're going to be killed.
Shunned and outcasted. Right? Blacklisted, canceled.
Blacklisted, canceled. Exactly.
We went through the cancellation in society, right? It's crazy.
Yes. So we need more people to speak out without the fear of being canceled, and more people to be a little more patient and kind.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. I love to be able to close out on a message like that. I appreciate everything you're doing. I think that people being able to talk about their experiences and why they feel the way they feel about certain topics. I think that's extremely important for our society moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah. So maybe if you meet someone that you disagree with, you can ask why. Like, what is it about you that you feel that way? And like, hear them out. Right. And it opens up a dialogue.
Right. Because most of the time it's based on your own personal experiences. It's not necessarily something you read in a textbook. Right. You experience, everybody experiences different things in life.
Right. We can all bridge that gap.
Bridging the gap.
Yeah. Skye, thank you for coming on. I appreciate the conversation. I look forward to seeing you more often.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Just a quick message to our audience out there. Please remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe. It really helps our content reach more people, and it adds to our algorithm. Thank you.